Welcome to Global Tax Talk. I'm Sindhu Blume. We're filming from PwC's International Tax Conference in California, where I am so pleased to be joined by Shin Yamaguchi with PwC Japan. Shin, welcome.
Thanks, Sindhu. Great to be here.
So we're going to talk about Pillar 2, and I first want to find out from you the state of play of Pillar 2 in Asia. So if you could, tell us what's going on.
Sure. So the Asia Pacific is home to over half of the world's population and a third of global GDP, an array of vibrant economies. When you think about it from a Pillar 2 perspective, the impact differs depending on the nature of the economy as well as the local tax system. So understandably, there is some variance in the implementation timeline of the rules. For example, Japan, Korea, Australia, countries that have many large multinationals that are in scope of the income inclusion rule, or the IIR, the top-down approach to collecting top-up tax, have implemented the IIR as of 2024.
Okay.
Then you have the hub countries, Singapore, Hong Kong, which early on in the process, recognizing the potential impacts of the rules, said that they would implement in 2025. And now we're having public consultation as well as additional measures being proposed.
Okay.
Then we have countries in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, to name a few, that have historically offered tax holidays or tax incentives to draw foreign direct investment to bolster the local economy, be it in automotive, electronics, or manufacturing industries. And there, the Qualified Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax, or the QDMTT, which allows countries to collect up to 15% tax on in-country business activities, may have an impact. Already we're seeing Vietnam implementing the QDMTT as of 2024, and others should presumably follow in 2025. Lastly, we have China and India, who have been noticeably quiet, with no public pronouncements around Pillar 2.
Okay. So with Pillar 2 Live, you've talked about some responses from countries, but could you talk about the policy response from countries in the region?
Sure. So when companies expand overseas, there's a range of factors that come into play. Supply chain, infrastructure, workforce, and tax is one of those considerations. And as a result of QDMTT, corporates may be paying additional taxes. And in that regard, governments are exploring additional measures that they may be able to introduce to be competitive and to remain an attractive investment destination.
Okay.
Take Singapore, for example. As part of the 2024 budget, they introduced what's called a refundable investment credit, which applies to investments in R&D, manufacturing facilities, as well as green transition activities. Because this is a tax credit that is also refundable in cash within a few years, for purposes of the Globe model rules, it's intended to be a qualified refundable tax credit, in which case it is treated as income for purposes of the ETR calculation as compared to tax incentives, which effectively reduce the amount of tax for the ETR calc. These credits are also being introduced in Ireland and Belgium with respect to R&D activities as well. Also have Vietnam, which has, as I mentioned, has introduced the QDMTT in 2024. And there also they are considering potentially introducing some type of reimbursement mechanism with respect to manufacturing and R&D costs with respect to the high-tech industry, particularly with respect to corporations that have a significant footprint in the country.
Okay.
And just one other point, as a general matter, as government revenues increase, it will be interesting to see how those additional funds are directed.
Sure. So what has the company response been to this? Because first of all, there are so many things to keep track of. It's a huge region, and you pointed out the stats related to the region. So how are companies responding, and how are they planning?
Sure. The first step, of course, is to understand the implication of the QDMTT, both at the local subsidiary level as well as the parent company. And also then to assess how these additional measures that are being introduced might align with your in-country business activities. I think it's also important to consider that when you think about the Asia Pacific as a whole, it's a skilled workforce. The strong industrial ecosystems and the burgeoning consumer base that have been some of the key factors in driving and will continue to drive the robust investment into the region. So it's in that context, in totality, that we will have to consider this ever evolving tax landscape.
Sure. Shin, thank you so much. I know there's a lot to keep track of here, and I really appreciate you providing some insight on this. And as things progress, I know we'll want to have you back and talk about this some more.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sindhu.
And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.